Hello, welcome to IDT Talks. My name is Anastasia Lavrina and today I'm greeting you from Lachin district of Azerbaijan. We have a special guest from Russia, Stanislav Pritchin, head of sector of Central Asia Institute of World Economy and International Relations in Russia. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to IDT Talks.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I guess you already have some ideas what about I'm going to ask you. This week was quite successful for the future development of bilateral relations between Azerbaijan and Russia. Mr. President Ilham Aliyev visited Moscow and had a very nice meeting with the President of Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin. So my first question, how is Azerbaijan being perceived by Moscow now and how this meeting can, let's say, strengthen the cooperation between two countries?
To be honest, since the November of 2020, our relations entered to the new age of development, I would say, because on the one hand, the key stone of relations, the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict, was almost resolved, and it was an obvious obstacle for our relations because, of course, Azerbaijan, during the whole period of independence, had the goal to restore its territorial integrity. And since November 2020, our relations, even having very good level of development, came to the little bit different stage, and it was supported by the declaration which was signed in February 2022. For me, it was a sign that development of our relations is going in the right direction. Now we could see that in this triangle, Armenia, Azerbaijan and Russia, traditionally closer relation was between Armenia and Russia. Now we see how this transformation of this triangle is changing because of changing of position of Armenia and worsening relations between Armenia and Russia. And meanwhile, despite the fact that we have had good relations with Azerbaijan, now we could see that there is additional motivations and additional drivers for developing our relations. So there are no any strong obstacles, problems which haven't resolved, and now we could see that our presidents, basing on the old common projects like BAM is constructing the future for our relations through using new projects like North-South, investor programs and different other projects within the region. So from my perspective, this is additional evidence that our relations is really developing and strengthening day after day.
I should ask you also about the early withdrawal of the Russian peacekeepers from the Karabakh region of Azerbaijan. According to the trilateral statement, they were supposed to stay there until November 2025, but the process already started. And some experts can predict that this will also help two countries to have more opportunities for cooperation. I mean, in a bilateral means, and for the region it will be beneficial. So what's your opinion on this matter?
Yeah, definitely it became additional trust constructing and supporting elements of our relations, because on the one hand, we had a schedule, and according to this agreement, time of being presence of Russian peacekeepers in the region might be even further than 2025. But we have had a little bit different, as it was expected from the beginning, development of situation, and first of all the leaving of Armenian population of Nagorno-Karabakh to Armenia, and the main goal of presence Russian peacekeepers was to protection of civilians in the region, and of course prevention any escalations and conflicts, especially on the line of contact between Armenian and Azeri militaries. Now we could see that one of these elements really eliminated, so there is no huge reasons or justified reason of being Russian peacekeepers in the region, because there is no object for protection. But we saw today on the bridge that some parts of Russian peacekeepers are still in the region, and especially the most important parts of line of contacts where has happened some accidents. And of course, but we see that there is no needs to have all staff of peacekeepers, almost 2,000 soldiers here in the region. So that is why the process of withdrawal has started, and we saw in reactions of other media and experts that from the logical point of view there is no need to prolong presence of Russian peacekeepers in the region.
Right. You mentioned Armenia. The relations between Russia and Armenia is worsening, unfortunately. Your personal opinion, what is lying behind this? How you can explain the position of Yerevan, despite the fact that two countries had quite stable and successful cooperation within different types of organization. Today we see that Armenia select to have more pro-Western policy. I'm not saying it's good or bad, but why it's happening and how do you see the future of this process?
Of course, it's very pity to say about the current stage and latest developments of relations between Moscow and Yerevan, and mostly they initiated not Moscow, because Moscow, despite the fact that despite all these statements of political elite of Armenian politicians, still is going to develop our strategic relations. But there is no adequate answer. There is no adequate even estimation of positive role of Russia for saving lives of civilians here in the region, and the positive contribution of Russia for preventing and stopping war in November 2020. Reason why it is happening, of course, might be that the current government of Armenia is trying to transfer responsibility for all losses on the battlefield and negotiation tables.
To blame Russia for that.
To blame Russia for that. So this is not our wine. Russia didn't send enough troops for us. Russia didn't support us in this point, in that point. But in reality, yeah, without Russia, it would have been absolutely different results of this war, with unfortunately more tragic possible casualties and number of deaths among civilians. But unfortunately today for Pashinyan and his teams doesn't matter, because for him it's more important to save his life. Not to save his life, save his political career.
Even sometimes save the lives.
Especially, yeah. And this process of saving power sometimes needs some sacrificing, and for him less important today looks Russian relations with Russia. Of course, this is from my perspective, this is a wrong assumption, because taking into account the dependence Armenia in economical point of view, investment, military, security issues, it might be a disaster if, for example, Armenia one day decides to withdraw from the Eurasian Economic Union.
Do you think it may happen?
But when its economy, but the start of discussion about possible joining the European Union means that Armenia will have to withdraw from the Eurasian Economic Union, because we know Brussels. For Brussels, the most important not the level of life in the countries of members, or future members, but the zone of control. And for them, in this case, will be extremely important to take Armenia from the pro-Russian organization, despite the fact that it will have very tragic consequences for Armenia, disaster and economy. So Ukraine is the best example. When the revolution in 2013 started, right now, after the decision of Yanukovych joined the declined the suggestion of creating of free trade zone and agreement of association with the European Union, and it was the starting point for the revolution within the Ukraine and then the conflict with Russia. So we saw that there is no compromise for European Union. You are with us or against us. The only two possible, black and white, unfortunately, ideology. And this is very dangerous for Armenia, because in this case they will lose support and benefits from cooperation with Russia.
Indeed, and my final question about economic cooperation. You mentioned North-South project, which is very successfully developed despite the troubles which is still existing. So how do you see the future economic integration processes between Russia and Azerbaijan, Central Asia, Iran, and all of this connectivity which is now existing, and the prospects which is being discussed at the highest level?
Of course, we are waiting for the final stage of the construction of railways in Iran. This is the final and today key element of these transport roads. But interesting that in Moscow it was confirmed that capacity of this road will be increased twice, even in Azerbaijan. So Azerbaijan is going to develop its internal railways in order to achieve capacity something about 15 million tons a year. But this is also just a starting point. It shows that Russia and Azerbaijan very positively consider this road as the trans-regional. So, and if finally with Azeri and Russian support, this final Astara-Resht part of railways will be constructed, of course, it will be the huge victory for us. And generally for Azerbaijan, of course, especially taking into account all other projects, Baku-Tbilisi-Kars, I hope Zangezur corridor, it will be the real crossroads here on the west side of the Caspian Sea, because so all roads will go through Azerbaijan, and anyway it will be beneficial for Russia, especially for Russian south regions, because they will have the shortest trade communications with Iran, with Turkey, with Armenia. Extremely important will be for Russian economy, especially if Armenia will still be part of the Eurasian Economic Union, and with Persian Gulf countries as well. So from this perspective, but this is just the logistical issues. We see, so we discussed yesterday with the president that nuclear power plant is maybe on the table as a question of agenda.
If there is a more interest from outside.
Yeah, so even possible, he didn't exclude possible joining the Eurasian Economic Union if also he and his government will see some benefits for other economies in the future. So it means that our leaders having quite positive and optimistic vision of future and economical future of our relations, especially taking into account the final stage of Karabakh story, tragic story for the region, even in situation when probably peace treaty won't be signed in near future.
Indeed, but what is really important at the end of this story is that the conflict being resolved, and Karabakh is a part of Azerbaijan as it was, as it is, and as it will be. So thank you so much.
Thank you for your invitation, and thank you for these beautiful views.
Thank you.